Hey, what is up, guys, and welcome back to Football Discussions. Today we're coming at you with Mock Draft 11.0. This is the post-combine mock draft. It was very fun to do. I know my mock drafts are obviously going to be my most viewed videos every time. This is going to be a two-round mock draft, but what I was going to say is I did my offensive positional rankings yesterday, so if you want to check that video, go check it out now. I worked hard on that, and I would like you guys to see, my kind of big board. Just to get a sense of where I'm at with all these players post combine. But regardless, we can get right into this mock draft. I'm not going to do a long intro. Starting off with the number one overall pick, Joe Burrow to the Bengals, a lock. I'm going to say it. We're post combine. Nothing's changed. He's still a lock. Meetings went well with coaches. His medical examinations went well. He did not work out at the combine. He came in with 9-inch hands, which was probably the biggest story of his at the combine. But Patrick Mahomes has small hands too, so it really doesn't matter. But regardless, Joe Burrow to the Bengals. Don't see anything else happening besides that. So yeah, that's pretty much a lock, like I said. And then at 2 here, Chase Young, another player that didn't work out at the combine, but what we've seen on the field is just too good to have him fall past that number 2 spot. A fantastic edge rusher, gets to the quarterback very effectively. Big fan of his. And I think it's just a solid fit for the Redskins to get a dominating pass rusher. Because to me, at this point in time, their defensive line is it's a very good defensive line. It's underratedly good. You got guys like Deron Payne. You have Jonathan Allen. You have Matt Ioannidis. I'm definitely botching that name, but there's not really a premier pass rusher on that line. It's full of great run stoppers, and I think bringing Chase Young along can make them have a solid edge rush, get to the quarterback, and I think that's important. Now here we have our first trade. We have the Dolphins trading up. They're trading away their 5th overall pick and their 26th overall pick to the Lions for the 3rd overall pick. And yes, they're going to get Tua Tagovailoa, another guy that didn't work out at the combine due to his hip injury, but his meetings seemed to have gone well. There was a little smoke screen, but I think it was a false report for a minute there where they said that Tua's meeting with the Dolphins didn't go well. But I think right now the Dolphins are still kind of playing that smokescreen game, trying to not make it evident that they want to trade up and save that to the last minute. But to me, I think Tua is their guy. They want a solid quarterback, a quarterback that can make plays, move around in the pocket, be accurate with the football. So I think Tua Tagovailoa is going to be their guy. And with all these smoke screens between the Redskins and the Dolphins, I think it's going to be a necessity for teams to trade up for Tua, whoever ends up getting him. But I do still believe that he'll be the second quarterback off the board. I mean, yes, Herbert's good. Yes, Burrow's good, but Tua to me is the most proven quarterback. He's done it on the big stage over and over and over again. Obviously, Joe Burrow had just the statistically best season of all time, or one of the best seasons of all time in college football. And to me, he is still the number 1 quarterback. But Tua is proven. He plays very well. And I don't see a way out of someone trading up to 3 to get him. And in this case, I have the Dolphins doing so. At 4, I normally mock the offensive line here, but I'm going to go in a different direction just due to the athletic freak that he is, and that's going to be Isaiah Simmons out of Clemson. This is actually a decent offensive line free agency, so the Giants need to keep that in mind. And also, it's not a bad offensive tackle class. The offensive tackles run deep in this class. You can get a Niang. Later in the draft, you can get Josh Jones, maybe if you're lucky enough later in the draft. So there's a lot of talent that I wouldn't overlook here if you're the Giants in the second rounds, the second and third round. But to me, getting Isaiah Simmons is just a necessity for them at this point. Their linebacker situation is terrible. I mean, maybe you can move Jabril Peppers down from safety to linebacker, and you would have a solid linebacker in your team. But as of right now, the Giants do not have a single good linebacker on their football team, and Isaiah Simmons is super good. We saw what he did at the combine. He proved his athleticism, running a 4.39, ridiculous. At let's see his actual size. I'm not going to guess. At 6'4" and 230 pounds, the dude ran a 4.39. That is absurd. And obviously, we've seen what he's been able to do on the field. He plays nickel. He plays safety. He plays edge. He plays linebacker. So he can really do it all. He's a versatile player. I feel like Gettleman, who usually goes for the safe pick, is going to take a risk, or not even a risk here, but not go safe, get the explosive player, not go offensive line, which is, the lame pick that Giants fans hate. This time he's going to get an exciting playmaker in Isaiah Simmons, who I think is going to have the best career out of anyone in this draft class. At 5, the Lions are still going to get their guy, and that's Jeff Okudah. Had a solid combine. I think he ran sub-4s or maybe mid-4s, but regardless, super good player, great in man, great in zone, prototype quarterback, cornerback, and I like him a lot, Jeff Okudah to the Lions. Here at 6, this is tricky. To me, the Chargers have a couple of options here. They could go quarterback and Justin Herbert, which is what I think they will do at this point in the process. But maybe this free agency is getting better and better. We see guys like Jameis Winston's names being thrown around. We see Teddy Bridgewater. We see Tom Brady. The Chargers couldn't make a play for one of those. We see Ryan Tannehill. So there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks moving around in the NFL this season, or this offseason. And I feel like the Chargers, who already have a solid team, you have guys like Melvin Gordon, you have guys like Keenan Allen, you have Mike Williams, you have Hunter Henrys, who they might not be able to re-sign. But still, there's pieces in place where this Chargers roster is already a good roster. You just need to bring in a quarterback that played better than Phillip Rivers last year. So yes, there are proven talents in the NFL floating around this free agency, and that's the only reason why I could see the Chargers going tackle, not to mention the fact that this tackle class was really good and the best tackles are still on the board, obviously. But to me, I feel like Justin Herbert, what he did at the Combine, what he did at the Senior Bowl, has proven that he's a top-tier quarterback in this draft. And I have the Chargers going Justin Herbert here out of Oregon, finish his career on a Pac-12 championship, a Rose Bowl victory. He's proven himself in game at the Senior Bowl, like I said, was Senior Bowl MVP, and obviously proved himself at the Combine, throwing probably the best out of any quarterback there, in my opinion. So I like Herbert a lot, and I think the Chargers can't miss him here. At 7, this one's easy. I have him listed at number 5 in my draft class, but a top 5 player in the class, Derek Brown. Super good. He can be a 3-4 technique edge. He can play interior defensive lineman at the defensive tackle position. He's even big enough to be a nose tackle. He can rush the passer. He can the run stop. One of my favorite defensive players in this class, and he's not going to be bad. Normally there's a risk factor, this clip might come back to bite me, but I can't see Derek Brown being bad in the NFL. It just feels like all his talents will translate over to the next level, and I feel like the Panthers are going to get a solid player here at 7. At 8, another tricky situation. The Cardinals could go wide receiver. CeeDee Lamb is available, but at the same time, you have Larry Fitzgerald for one more year. You have a young stud wide receiver. Still think he's very good in my opinion, and Christian Kirk. And Andy Isabella is still that slot guy that you can use. And then the other thing with this draft is that it's a very deep wide receiver class, one of the deeper wide receiver classes that we've ever seen. So the Cardinals could definitely go wide receiver later in the draft. And while I feel like pairing CeeDee Lamb with Kyler Murray is hard to pass up, all the tackles are available. And the Cardinals' offensive line, yes, they re-signed DJ Humphries, but the rest of the offensive line is still atrocious, besides maybe a guy like Sweezy. I feel like you have to secure the best tackle in this class, and to me, that's Mekhi Becton. He proved it with his athleticism and his strength at the Combine. The dude is 6'7". I think he weighed in at 364 pounds at the Combine. Here it says 369. But regardless, the dude ran a 5'1" at the Combine. That is ridiculous for his size. And yes, athleticism isn't the most important thing. And yes, the 40-yard dash isn't the most important thing when it comes to tackles. But to me, it matters. These guys have to get up and move to the next level. They have to be able to create space. They have to be strong enough to open up these gaps and also block some of the premier edge rushers in this league. And I feel like Mekhi Becton is the Cardinals' guy to do so. Super strong, super talented, and I like the pick a lot at 8. Here at 9, it's a tricky one because, a lot of the players that maybe the Jaguars would go after aren't available. You don't see Jeff Okudah. You don't see Isaiah Simmons. And then you don't see Derek Brown, which I feel like would be their alternative. Now, to me, there's 2 options here. You could go interior defensive lineman in Javon Kinlaw. I like him a lot. And then also you could go safety. But is it too early to pick up a guy like Xavier McKinney? To me, yes, it is. So I am going to have them go in Javon Kinlaw here. It might be a little high, but it's hard to pass up on. Javon Kinlaw is super good, super talented, a lot like Derek Brown where he can play pass rush and he can also run stop. He's super, super good. I like him a lot. And the Jaguars' interior defensive line is going to be atrocious anyway. They're cutting players. Marcel Darius is definitely out. There's a question mark around Calais Campbell's name. Is Yannick Ngakoue coming back? I believe they franchise tagged him today, but there's still trade rumors surrounding. Is it a tag and trade? We'll see how that plays out. But Javon Kinlaw, I feel like could be, the new piece and the new face of this Jaguars defensive line. And I like the direction that they would go if they pick Javon Kinlaw here. At 10, it's pretty obvious what the Browns are going to do. They're going to go offensive tackle. It's just a matter of who. And these actually aren't my most recent rankings, but to me, I would put Tristan Wirfs over Andrew Thomas. But for right now, Jedrick Wills still is my number 2 tackle, and I feel like the Browns are going to take him. Wills is a solid tackle, can play either side of the ball. He played right tackle at Alabama. I feel like in the NFL he might be switched to a left tackle just due to his athleticism. But to me, solid pick here for the Browns, and they need to be able to protect bigger better than they did last year. So it makes sense for them to go tackle here. At 11, we have the Jets also going tackle. It's going to be Tristan Wirfs out of Iowa. This guy is another athletic freak at tackle. Love what I saw from him at the combine. He ran like a 4.8, and I want to see his size. Not as heavy as Mekhi Becton, but he's 6'5", 322 pounds, and is running a 4.8. Dude can move. He had a sick vertical, super athletic. And I think Wirfs can be a solid player in this draft. You can even slide Wirfs into guard. I feel like he can be a solid pulling guard. He's good at getting up to the next level. So it's a very versatile player. The Jets can do a lot with him. And right now their offensive line is barren. So while getting a CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy might be enticing to them, I feel like it's too hard to pass up on here at 11. At 12, the Raiders are going wide receiver. It's just a matter of who. And honestly, I feel like they're not even thinking about Jerry Jeudy at this point in the draft. I feel like they have to be thinking about CeeDee Lamb or Henry Ruggs, the two guys that put on shows at the combine. CeeDee showed off his athleticism and catching ability, while Ruggs showed off his insane speed and also his athleticism. He had a sick vertical. There's videos of him going viral of dunking in high school. So I like it's a toss-up, like I said, but I like the prospect of having these two players for the Raiders. But right now I'm going to go CeeDee. CeeDee is just too good to pass up on. I like him a lot, and I feel like he can be a solid player in this league. Very good at going up and getting the ball. Super good after the catch. Brings a lot to the table for Las Vegas, who needs a big-time playmaker over there. At 13, I have the Colts. Actually, normally I would go Jordan Love, but it feels like to me the Colts are making the most moves and experimenting the most in free agency. So I feel like their quarterback is not going to be a rookie quarterback next year. It's going to be a Tom Brady. It's going to be a Teddy Bridgewater. So it's going to be a Phillip Rivers. So I feel like one of those guys will wind up in Indianapolis. And while that may not lead to that doesn't mean that they're not going to take a quarterback later in the draft. There's Eason's available. They have 2 second-round picks. They can get an Eason then. So I feel like there's going to be a lot they have to consider. But to me, I have them going wide receiver. It's going to be Jerry Jeudy out of Alabama, another stud, great route runner. Not much more I can say about him. He's just super talented. I could go on and on, but I'm going to stop right there. And then here at 14, surprise pick, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers getting their quarterback of the future in Jordan Love. And the reason for that is that I feel like the Buccaneers are going to have to re-sign Shaq Barrett. But I don't think they're going to be able to pay him a contract that he wants. So when it comes down to it, they're going to have to use the franchise tag on Shaq Barrett, and then that will lead to them having to, weigh out their options on what they're going to do with Jameis Winston, because there's no way that if you franchise tag Shaq Barrett, you have enough money to bring Jameis Winston back on a long-term deal. And since you already franchise tagged Shaq Barrett, you can't franchise tag Jameis Winston. So I feel like Shaq Barrett's their priority right now. Bruce Arians already said if we were winning with Jameis, we can win with anyone. So he clearly doesn't have the greatest relationship with Jameis. Doesn't mean he, wouldn't want to work with him in the future. But to me, I feel like Jameis Winston is out in Tampa Bay. He's going to be playing somewhere else. And they're going to have to go quarterback here, get Jordan Love, super good prospect, has a strong arm, can move around in the pocket, very mobile, and I like him a lot. I think it's a good fit in Tampa Bay. I think Bruce Arians will work with him, and maybe you'll have that, Andy Reid, Mahomes kind of vibe with Bruce Arians and Love. I feel like that's a very similar situation. 2 great quarterback coaches with 2 raw quarterbacks coming out of college, and I feel like Love reminds me a lot of Mahomes in the way he plays, the risks he takes, that arm strength. So I feel like there's a lot of similarities there, and I like the fit a lot at 14. At 15, the Broncos are going to get their guy, Henry Ruggs, the third out of Alabama. Super talented player, super fast, super athletic. And this would be a solid fit in Denver, mainly because you have Cortland Sutton flying down the field, going up and getting the big ball, taking the top off of defense, and then you'll have Ruggs going on these underneath routes. So one of them is going to draw more attention than the other, which is going to lead to one of them getting open or the third wide receiver getting open. So I feel like it's going to create a lot of opportunities for Drew Lock to be able to grow and find the open receiver in Denver, which is really what they need for such a young quarterback. And getting such a talented young wide receiver core would be amazing in Denver. And I like Ruggs, and I like the fit for the Broncos. At 16, we have a solid player available for the Falcons, and that's going to be K'Lavon Chaisson out of LSU. Dude's a beast. He's athletic. His technique is raw. I will give you that. If you're, disagreeing with me here, that K'Lavon is worth a first round pick, but he's talented enough to get to the quarterback, make plays. He can also drop back in coverage. I'd say he's one of the better coverage edge rushers in this class, and he's far and away the most athletic. So once you get that technique down and he can play a little better with that athleticism, it's going to be a scary sight to see. And I think K'Lavon is a solid fit in Atlanta, who needs a premier edge rusher. At 17, it's either cornerback or safety, and I feel like, to me, CJ Henderson is available, and I feel like CJ Henderson deserves a lot more respect than he's been getting. Dude ran super fast at the combine, had a super good career at Florida. The only knock on him is his tackling, which, yes, is a problem, but I feel like he's definitely worth a first-round pick and can be a solid cornerback in this class just due to his blanket coverage abilities. But this is a deep corner class, and it's not a deep safety class. Past Ashtyn Davis, there isn't a lot of great safeties. I feel like the Cowboys will have to capitalize on getting their safety of the future now and worry about corner later in the class or in the draft. So I have Xavier McKinney out of Alabama going to the Cowboys at 17. Here, this is going to be a very tough pick for the Dolphins to make. You can go Andrew Thomas, who's a solid offensive tackle. Pass blocking isn't great, but he's probably one of the better run blockers in this class. Or you could go edge rusher AJ Epineza out of Iowa, another guy that I like a lot. He's more of a run stopper than a pass rusher, I would say, but he's also got pass rushing capabilities, where as opposed to, K'Lavon Chaisson and Chase Young are dominant off the edge. I wouldn't say AJ Epineza is super dominant off the edge, but still, like I said, can grow into a good pass rusher in this league. So I feel like it's going to be hard to pick here if you're the Dolphins at 18. This is your last pick of the first round, so you better make it count. And while I feel like Andrew Thomas might be the better prospect out of these two, AJ Epineza, it's not as deep of an edge rushing class as it is of a tackle class, and the Dolphins pick high in that second round. They can get a solid player like a Josh Jones, like I said before, in the second round. So I think they'll go that direction later and get AJ Epineza now, who's probably going to fit into their defense right away, become an instant starter. So I like that pick a lot for the Dolphins. At 19, we have linebacker for the Raiders. That's kind of a no-brainer. Kenneth Murray, super talented player out of Oklahoma. Hits hard, plays the run very well. Not the best pass coverage linebacker, but can get there. But his pure strength and athleticism is really what's pushing him over Patrick Queen to me. But moving on to Patrick Queen, he's going to go right here at 20. So the Jaguars, with their second pick, are going to get Patrick Queen. They go defense both times. Queen is a beast. One of the better coverage linebackers we've seen in a while. I feel like he would be getting a lot more acknowledgement if it weren't for Isaiah Simmons' insane coverage ability. But I think Patrick Queen is underrated, can make a play. Both these guys are very good, and I like them a lot, and I think they'll fit into whatever defense they go to. At 21, the Philadelphia Eagles secondary was atrocious. They're going to take CJ Henderson here, cornerback out of Florida. I mentioned what I like about him earlier, so I'm not going to go into that again. But a solid player. And yeah, the tackling is bad, but I feel like he can work on that. His blanket coverage overshadows that for me. Here at 22, we have Justin Jefferson going to the Bills. Super talented player, like Jefferson a lot. Had a fantastic combine. I feel like if anyone rose his draft stock at the combine besides Isaiah Simmons, who was already at the top of people's boards, it's Justin Jefferson. Dude caught the ball well. He ran faster than people expected him to. Just did everything that he could have at the combine. I am excited to see how he performs at his pro day. But I think Justin Jefferson is the player to watch out for. He's going to be that like fourth, fifth wide receiver off the board that you're going to have to pay attention to just because he is so good. So yeah, Jets at 22. At 23, the Patriots are clearly going to take offensive tackle Andrew Thomas out of Georgia. I don't think they're going to be able to re-sign Conklin. That doesn't seem realistic to me given their cap situation, but maybe they do if they don't bring back Brady. So we'll see how that plays out. But Andrew Thomas, like I said, solid rushing tackle or run blocking tackle, not the best pass blocking tackle, but definitely a good pass blocker as well. Just not as good as the first three tackles off the board in this one. I think Thomas can grow into and develop into a good player, especially in Belichick's scheme. So I like that fit a lot in New England. At 24, we have the Saints picking here. Do they go Eason? Get him a year of experience under Drew Brees, and Drew Brees most likely last year of his career. Probably not here. I'd say they go wide receiver. Laviska Shenault is on the board. I like Shenault. His athleticism is great. He needed surgery, I think, in his abdomen, so that's why he didn't perform as well as the combine. Running wise, I think he ran like high or like mid 4.5s, which a lot of people were shocked by. But that's because he, needs surgery. I think Laviska Shenault is that Deebo Samuel type player. You can use him anywhere. You can play him anywhere. I like Shenault a lot. To the Saints at 24. At 25, we have the Vikings, and they're going to go cornerback here. Christian Fulton. Fulton, to me, is a solid player. Had a super good year in 2018. 2019 wasn't his best year, and we see that with two LSU defensive backs here. We see that with not only Christian Fulton, but also Grant Delpit, the safety from LSU. Both guys are talented. Both guys can make plays. But I think that Fulton is going to be a solid fit in Minnesota. They're obviously done with Xavier Rhodes, so they're going to have to bring in someone else that can make plays for them on the boundary, and Fulton is that guy. At 26, the Lions actually have a tough choice here, but I think they're going to have to go Yetur Gross-Matos out of Penn State. Matos is a solid player. He's athletic. He can get off the edge quickly. He's also, a stronger edge rusher as well. So he's very versatile, very balanced. And I think the Lions, yes, they would have liked they would have liked a Patrick Queen. They would have liked a Kenneth Murray, but it's too late for that now. They're going to have to settle for what they can get in the first round. And Yetur Gross-Matos is definitely a first-round talent. I like him as a fit to the Lions at 26. At 27, to me, it's a toss-up. The Seahawks could go Curtis Weaver. They could go Terrell Lewis, maybe even Julian Okwara. There's a lot of stuff that the Seahawks can consider here. They could even go interior offensive line. You have a guy like Lloyd Cushenberry. You have a guy like Cesar Ruiz. There's a lot to think about here for the Seahawks. But to me, I feel like they're going to go Curtis Weaver. A lot of people have Weaver falling down their boards, and I've said this forever. I don't think Weaver should be falling down boards. He's talented as anyone in this draft. He's great off the edge. He put up far and away higher production than most of these guys besides Chase Young at all 3 years at Boise State. I think he's a sleeper, and I think he's a player that to watch out for. I like Weaver a lot, and I'm not happy that he's being slept on currently by most scouts. Here at 28, it's tough. I don't know what I would do. Grant Delpit's obviously available. Do they go that route? Earl's getting old, and who do they have on the other side? I can't think right now. They could go interior defensive lineman. Neville Gallimore's here, and I think that's what they'll do. Get Neville. I can't pronounce his name. Neville Gallimore, solid interior defensive lineman out of Oklahoma. Dude is a run-stopping freak, not as good of a pass rusher as those other two that I mentioned before, in Javon Kinlaw and Derek Brown. But those guys are a whole tier above anyone else in this class. So I think that Neville Gallimore can be a solid fit in Baltimore. They're going to have to move on from I can't think of anyone right now. That big dude in the middle is all I'm going to say. Their defensive tackle, of course, I can't think of his name. I don't know what they're going to do with Judon yet, so their defensive line will probably need some reconfiguring. Michael Pierce, thank you. So Michael Pierce, I don't think he will be back in Baltimore this next season, and like I was saying, Judon might be out, so there's going to have to be some reconfiguring with that defensive line in Baltimore. So I think getting Neville Gallimore is a solid player, definitely a first-round talent in my opinion, is important for the Ravens. At 29 here, the Titans are going to get Lloyd Cushenberry, one of my favorite prospects in this class. He has great athleticism at the guard position. He's 6'3", 312 pounds, a very good pulling guard and a really good pass blocking guard. We saw that last year where LSU was throwing it every play. There really wasn't anything around them throwing it. Anytime they got the chance, they were throwing the football. So I feel like getting Lloyd Cushenberry, who's versatile, can play offensive guard, can run block, can pass block, can slide in the center, can play guard, I feel like is important. So I think Cushenberry is a solid player and a first-round talent. At 30, I have the Packers probably going T. Higgins here. Higgins is a player that I'm fond of. I think he's, one of your prototype wide receivers in today's NFL. He's 6'4", 215 pounds, and runs fast. We didn't get to see him work out of the combine, but I feel like he would have put in maybe like fours, high 4.4s, maybe low 4.5s, but that's still insane for his size. He has great strength, can go up and get the football. Super talented player, and I think he's going to make some noise in this draft and definitely be a first-round pick. At 31, yes, some corners are available. You have guys like Jaylon Johnson, Trayvon Diggs, Jeff Gladney. But to me, I feel like safety, you can't miss one of the better players in this class, and that's Grant Delpit. His range and athleticism is amazing. Yes, his tackling needs work. He admitted that in his combine interviews, but I feel like Delpit can really grow and perform as one of the better safeties in today's NFL. Like I said, he's super good in coverage. You can slide him in at that nickel spot, and his range is the best in this class far and away. You can get from one side of the field to the other in a blink of an eye, break up plays. I like Delpit's ability, and I like what he brings to the table for San Fran. And then at 32, your first running back off the board. I know a lot of people have DeAndre Swift at their at their first running back spot, but to me it's Jonathan Taylor. It's always been Jonathan Taylor, and he solidified it at the combine with his 4.39 at what size is he now? I think he's 215 plus. Yeah, 219 pounds, 5'11". He's balanced. He keeps his feet. Yes, people are like, he's not a good receiver. Did you watch last year? He grew into a very good receiving back. We saw what he could do out of the backfield with his hands. Yes, the fumbling problem is an issue to be worked on, but I don't think it's something that would bring him down by any means, just due to what else he brings to the table. His pass blocking is good. He's really a do-it-all back. I like him a lot, and I feel like Taylor is the best running back in this class. At 33, another pick that can go in multiple directions. I feel like the Bengals are willing to make some plays here to put people around Joe Burrow. They could go wide receiver. We could see them going, whether it's KJ Hamler is still on the board. Rieger, like I said, I need to rework on this big board because this isn't totally post-combine, but my rankings are – it's weird. You'll see if you watch my player rankings videos. Those are my current rankings. This is not my current rankings, but I would say Brandon Ayuk, Donovan Peoples-Jones are the next two, and KJ Hamler are the next three best wide receivers in this draft. But I feel like getting a guy who, is a little raw, but is super talented in Terrell Lewis is important to the Bengals defense. Joe Burrow does need to be surrounded by talent, but I do believe the Bengals have a third-round pick, and what they can do with that is get a Michael Pittman. They can get a Tyler Johnson. There's still a lot that they can do. So Terrell Lewis is a step in the right direction for the Bengals defense that needs some work. And I think this Bengals team can be much better than they were last year, just due to the fact that they had so many injuries across that offensive line. Their defense didn't play up to their abilities. They're gonna have to make some moves in free agency, but I wouldn't sleep on the Bengals being like 8-8 next year. I feel like that's definitely a goal that they can reach, especially with a young gun like Joe Burrow. At 34, two players here that come to mind for the Colts. You could go Ross Blacklock, a very solid player, or Raekwon Davis, another player that I'm fond of, or you could go quarterback. And to me, that's what they're going to do. Jacob Eason, quarterback out of Washington, has a cannon of an arm, is mobile in the pocket. I mean, he's tall, he's strong, can make plays. He's 6'6", 227 pounds, move outside the pocket. I like him a lot. He's very versatile. I like what he brings to the table. I definitely think he'll be a starter one day in this league. So Eason to the Colts at 34. At 35 here, the Lions, it's either two players. They could go Troy Dye, but to me it's a little high for him right now. I like Dye a lot, but not that much. And then they could go Cesar Ruiz. I'm going to go Ruiz. Ruiz is a talented player. He has really good athleticism for his size. He's 6'4", 319, ran like a 5.01 or something like that. He was super fast. Another guard that can pull very well. He can pass block. He can run block. He's versatile. And, I mean, the Lions here now have had 3 picks in the top 35. So there's a lot they can do here. They're putting in the building blocks of this team that I think is only going to progress from here. So I like Cesar Ruiz at 35. At 36, the Giants risked it all, got a linebacker in the first round. Here they're going to get the next best offensive tackle in the class, and that's Josh Jones. Super good player, super talented. Huge fan of his. I think he's one of the more athletic tackles in this class. I think he can play very well. And I think the Giants are going to get two really good players here with Josh Jones and Isaiah Simmons in the first round. I think that's a very good pairing. I feel like that's a very good drafting if they can get that done. At 37, the Chargers already got their quarterback of the future. Now it's just getting their maybe next offensive tackle. They could go interior offensive line. Looking at the options here, I don't think there's many left for me on the interior offensive line at this high in the second round. So Austin Jackson, who's a super good talent, I like him a lot, from USC. He's 6'6", 310 pounds. So tall and kind of light on the weight side of things when it comes to that size, height wise. But I think he's still a good player, a guy that's getting some first round buzz. So I definitely think he's worth a pick here in the second round, and I think he'll be a good fit in Los Angeles. At 38, the Panthers are going to go cornerback. To me, Jaylon Johnson is the next best corner. That's not false. I do think he's the third best corner in this class. But I feel like scouts don't agree with me, so I'm going to try to pick according to maybe what other people think. So Noah, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, is high on a lot of people's boards. I see Trayvon Diggs a lot, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pair the Panthers with Trayvon Diggs, get their cornerback of the future. Talented player here. I'm a big fan of his, and I think he can grow into the role of being one of the better cornerbacks in this class. Obviously, Cousins with or brothers with Stephon Diggs. So he has the football genes in him, a solid player, and I think it's a good fit in Carolina. Here at 39, while offensive tackle is enticing, you could get a guy like Lucas Niang, Prince Winoho, Isaiah Wilson. I don't think that's the direction that the Dolphins are going to go. I think they're going to go running back. DeAndre Swift is here. Super talented running back from Georgia. Best pass blocker far and away in this class. That's something that a lot of teams look for, and especially with the struggles that this offensive line has in Miami, they're going to need to work on that. So getting DeAndre Swift here is a steal. At 39, definitely a first-round talent to me, far and away. But I think it's a solid fit for the Dolphins. At 40, I have the wide receiver position. There's good players. You have KJ Hamler, you have Jalen Reagor, you have Brandon Ayuk, you have DPJ. You even have a guy like Denzel Mims, who is now higher on my draft board after the performance he put up at the combine with that size. That was absurd. But to me, this is actually tough. I don't know whether I'd have them go Ross Blacklock here or KJ Hamler. That is a tough decision. I'm going to go Hamler here. I think Hamler is too good to pass up on here. And yeah, you might say he's basically Andy Isabella, but getting him at that third spot and then letting Andy Isabella do that special teams thing and, getting out of the slot sometimes I feel like would be a sick pairing with the two of them. But I like KJ Hamler a lot for the Cardinals. At 41, this is a pick that I like a lot. It's going to be Antoine Winfield Jr. out of Minnesota. Dude had a sick combine, played very well. And I like the direction that his stock is heading. He's definitely heading up. And the Browns are going to get a solid player in him. And then at 42, back-to-back safeties here. Another guy that's too good to pass up on for the Jaguars, Kyle Duggar out of Lenore-Rhine. Ran a 4.5, I believe, which was a lot higher than people expected. But regardless, he benched really well. He's 6'1", 217 pounds. And if you're running a 4.5 at 217, that's good. And he's a hard hitter, plays well in coverage. I think he's underrated. D2 school, Lenore-Rhine. Kyle Duggar is one of my favorite players in this class and definitely a person you need to watch out for. Here at 43, I think this is another tough pick. And I'm trying to do this based off what scouts think, not just what I think, because that's more realistic probably because scouts definitely know more than me. This is tough. I would actually go tight end here. I think Bryson Hopkins from Purdue is the best tight end in this class far and away. I think he's super talented, great catcher or great route runner. Is also his size brings some good blocking to this. To his ability. He's 6'4", 241 pounds. And I'm a huge fan of his. I think he's good at getting a field blocking. He's good at those, block and release routes. So that's a lot of the stuff that you'll see him run. And then he's also just good out wide. He can play wide receiver basically as well. So I think it's a good pairing for the Bears and him at 43. At 44, we're going to see an interior defensive lineman here go off the board, and it's going to be Ross Blacklock. Ross Blacklock, pardon me, super talented player. Like what he brings to the table as well. He's more of a run stopper than anything else, but he's athletic. Can play, like I said, 3-4 end. He can play interior defensive lineman. So I think he's a good fit um, for the Colts. And then here we're going to go Raekwon Davis, back-to-back interior defensive lineman. Davis is another player that I'm a big fan of. Plays very well. Had a sick season in 2018, then kind of went down a little in 2019. But we've seen that happen with a lot of players. Raekwon could have come out last year with his boy Quinnen Williams. Decided to stay back, play one more year at Bama, and I still think he's one of the better interior defensive linemen in this class. So Buccaneers are going to get a solid player to go alongside Vita Vea, and when Raekwon's alongside a dominant interior defensive lineman like he was with Quinnen Williams, I feel like he succeeds better. So getting him put next to Vita Vea, who's proving to be one of the better interior defensive linemen in this league, is a solid fit for him. Here, it's either corner or offensive tackle. Lucas Niang, I feel like, has to be the pick. Jalen Johnson is too hard to pass up, or is going to be hard to pass up on, but he's going to go right here. Jalen Johnson out of Utah, super talented, super lengthy, has all the prototypes you want in the cornerback. He's 6'0", 190 pounds. I don't think they give wingspan on here. Yeah, they don't, but he's really good at or he has a really long wingspan. Sorry, kind of lost my train of thought there. Breaks up passes all the time and is super athletic. So I think he's a good fit in Atlanta. At 48, the Jets have to go wide receiver to me here, and it's going to be. Oh, this is tough. I think they're going to go Mims. I think Mims is his stock is going to continue to rise. He's one of the better wide receivers in this class. He is 6'3", 206 pounds. I think ran a 4.39. He had one of the higher verticals in this class. So his athleticism and his catching ability is off the charts. Like I said, I think he's going to continue to rise, make his way up in this draft class. And the Jets are going to get a solid player to, become their number one wide receiver, have a target where Sam Darnold can throw to him consistently. So I like that pick for the Jets. Here at 49, it could be edge, and I think that's exactly what it will be. Josh Uche out of Pittsburgh is going to go here. Out of Michigan is going to go here. I like Uche a lot. I am a Michigan fan. I've watched him for a while, and I think he's another guy that's high on a lot of people's boards right now. He continues to rise just due to his athleticism. I think he's a lot like Caleb Chason, and where his technique isn't great, but his athleticism and his ability to just burn by guards or tackles is very enticing to a lot of teams. Not to mention he's good in coverage as well, so he can drop back, play on running backs, can play on tight ends. So I think that's another trait that a lot of teams are looking for. So Uche is going to be a solid fit in Pittsburgh. At 50 here, you still have J.K. Dobbins on the board. Not to say that the Bears need running backs, but just something to remember. And there is a lot of teams that need a running back, but I feel like I've done a good job at picking fits so far. So J.K. obviously has fallen here a little. But getting back to the Bears, I'd say Jeff Gladney is going to go here. I like Jeff Gladney a lot. He's more of a man type than anything else, but he's super physical at the line of scrimmage, plays very well, and I like what he brings to the table. Here we'll do Noah Igbinoghene. Like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of his. I think he brings a lot to the table, and in his athleticism, but I don't think that he's the best corner in this class. But it seems that a lot of other scouts think he's worth the second round pick. So it is something to watch out for. I think he can creep his way up boards if other teams see that as well. But to me, like I said, I feel like he's not the best. But regardless, I'm kind of going on a tangent here. The Cowboys are going to get him, and then the Rams with their first pick in this class are probably going to go tackle as well. Prince Tega Winoho probably botched that as well. It's another hard name to say, but the Rams don't have a lot of draft picks, and they don't really have a lot of building blocks on their team. They're going to have to let a lot of players walk in free agency, and you have guys like Jalen Ramsey, and the wide receiver core is still good, and Todd Gurley may be good next year, but he's wearing down, it seems. So there's a lot of question marks to me about the Rams right now. So right now you can just build with what you can get, and that right now to me is going to be offensive tackle. So at 53, the next linebacker off the board would be Troy Dye, but another team that's wide receiver needy. So Brandon Ayuk out of Arizona State, really fast, great punt returner, probably the best punt returner in this class, and is also a solid wide receiver. Brings a lot to the table. So I think the Eagles are going to get their wide receiver of the future in the second round and get their cornerback of the future in the first round. Here, I feel like edge has to be the pick for the Bills, and it's going to be Julian Okwara. A lot of people have him, maybe sliding into the first round. So I feel like he'll be a player to watch out for falling here because there is so many good prospects in the second round. And then at 55, I actually am going to go running back J.K. Dobbins. There's question marks around Devontae Freeman's future. Obviously, he had a really good season 2 or 3 years ago, but he's kind of slowed down since then. So really don't know what he's going to be doing. This year, he might even be trade bait this offseason for Atlanta, so we could see that happening. But J.K. Dobbins is a solid player, physical runner. Obviously, he slipped in this scenario. I don't see him falling this far in real life. So, like I said, it's just a mock draft. But J.K. Dobbins, physical runner, super elusive, super athletic, first-round talent, in my opinion. So I think it's a solid pick for the Falcons if they're able to nab him there. At 55, offensive tackle has to be the pick, and Ben Barch, the weird shake drinking player out of St. John. I think that's D2 or D3 if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, there's like this random thing that went viral this week of him drinking a shake with like peanut butter, banana, Gatorade. It was disgusting, but apparently scouts liked what they saw out of him besides the shake. Played very well at the Senior Bowl, played very well at the Combine. We saw him dominating edge rushers at the Senior Bowl in those one-on-one drills. So I think his stock is rising, and I think a lot of scouts see that, and he's underrated and flying under the radar right now. So if the Dolphins were to wait until this late to get an offensive tackle, it's definitely worth it if you're going to get a guy like Ben Barch, who I think can be a solid player in the NFL. Here at 57, yeah, they missed out on the top 3 running backs, but they're still going to get Clyde Edwards-Helaire, one of my favorite players in this class. Super fun to watch. I love what he brings to the table. Has insane balance, insane tackle breaking abilities. One of the better receiving backs in this class. We saw it all the time because LSU only passed last year, where he would just run out of the backfield, catch the ball, and like bounce off 12 players, and then somehow get into the end zone. So I feel like he's super good. And it may have been fun to mock him in the second round right after the season. Just because what we saw from him was so electric, and it really wasn't realistic. I feel like him being a second round talent is becoming more and more realistic. So look out for that to happen later in the draft, seeing him or later in the second round, seeing him go off the board. At 58, I'm going to go Netane Muti out of Fresno State, another guy that I like a lot. He has good size and athleticism, 6'3", 307 pounds. He's a pass blocker. He's a run blocker. He can play center. He can play guard. He's more of a physical blocker, so I think he's a fun player, and I think he'll bring something good to the table in Minnesota. And then at 59, wide receiver, you got a steal in the second round. Now you're going to get a steal in the second round again. So you got a steal with DK Metcalf. Now you're getting Donovan Peoples-Jones. Both guys are freak athletes in their own different ways. Peoples-Jones ran 4.4, and he had the second highest vertical of a wide receiver since like 2006. And I've been saying this forever. I am a Michigan fan, so this may be a little biased, but he had John or Josh O'Corn throwing him the foot. I forget what his first name was because he was that bad, throwing him the football in his first 2 years of his career. And then he had Shea Patterson, who wasn't even that much better, throwing him the football this year. So he never really had good quarterback play. I didn't like Harbaugh's play calling when it came to the passing game. So I don't think Peoples-Jones got to prove how good of a player he was. But he's still super good, super physical, super athletic. He's a good punt returner. He's very versatile. And I think he can be a solid key piece in this Seahawks receiving core. At 60, linebacker Troy Dye is going to go to the Ravens. I like what Troy Dye brings to the table. He's a physical linebacker, plays hard, 6'4", 225, and he's also a good pass coverage. I think that's actually an underrated trait of his. We saw him in the Rose Bowl, making plays in the pass, breaking up passes, and I think that's something that he brings to the table that a lot of linebackers aren't bringing to the table these days. So I think Troy Dye is going to be an enticing pick for the Ravens at 60. And then here it has to be Zach Bond, and I know he slipped down my draft board as well. Zach Bond is a player that's getting hyped now. He can play both linebacker and edge. He's 6'3", 240 pounds. We've seen him slide all over the field at Wisconsin. Interior linebacker, like I said, edge. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do with him. He can be played with a lot in your scheme, and I think he's going to be a solid fit in Tennessee. Here at 62, we could go offensive tackle. That could be a fit for the Packers, but there really isn't that much talent left available. So to me, it's going to be Thaddeus Moss out of Green Bay. Sorry, LSU. That's the second time I've done that. Thaddeus Moss is a very talented player, basically a wide receiver. His blocking isn't great, but I feel like his blocking is good enough where in today's NFL it can get the job done. So Thaddeus Moss to the Packers at 62. At 63, the Chiefs are going to get their cornerback of the future. It's going to be Cam Dantzler out of Mississippi State. There's been rumors between these two guys being linked, or those two teams being linked. I think they like each other a lot. And Cam Dantzler is someone that's really underrated to me. I think he'll be a super good cornerback in this league, and I think he just needs a couple more years to develop. So I like that pick for the Chiefs. And then finally, wrapping up my mock draft 11.0 post-combine mock. Thank you if you've made it this far. We're going to have the Seattle Seahawks getting Tyler Biadasz out of Wisconsin, a guy that had first-round talent and has really fallen down boards, including mine. I think it's mainly due to his pass blocking ability. He's a solid run blocker, but I feel like there is a lot that you can do with him and a lot where he can move around. He played center and guard at Wisconsin, so I am still a fan of Biadasz's. I had him. If you go back to my mocks, he's been in my first round before, so I feel like him going in the bottom of the second round isn't the craziest thing ever. So something to watch out for if he does get picked late, because I don't think he should have fallen down boards as fast as he did and as hard as he did. So still a player to watch. So I'll quickly scroll through all of this if you want to just see it one more time. But while I'm doing that, I just want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you for supporting me. When I first started making mock drafts, I would have never thought that, like my mock draft 9.0, I would be getting 25,000 views. That is insane to me, and that may not seem like a lot, but it's still something that I think is crazy, and I love making these videos. Obviously, I'm just doing this like after school for fun, but it's nice to have an incentive to do it when I'm getting views like that. So I appreciate your guys' support. Continue to support me. If you want to see more mock drafts, please subscribe. And after I finish scrolling through this, if you're getting one last look at the mock, see ya. Peace.